Have you noticed how certain people around you seem to be revealing more than they intend? Not because they decide to be honest, but because something in them slips, a reaction that feels out of place, a tone that suddenly exposes irritation or insecurity, a moment where you quietly realize, I'm seeing something I didn't see before. If you are sensitive, this can feel unsettling. You don't need proof. You don't need explanations. You feel it immediately, in the emotional atmosphere, in the tension beneath the words. And very often, your first instinct is to question yourself. Why did that affect me? Did I imagine it? Am I being too sensitive? This is where we want to meet you. We are the Pleiadians, and our function is not to interfere with your life, but to support emotional clarity and inner stability. When truth begins to surface around you, we work with those who perceive deeply so they do not absorb what does not belong to them. Because when others begin to expose themselves, the real risk is not what they reveal, but how quickly you take responsibility for it. So let us begin with a simple awareness. When something feels off in an interaction, do you immediately turn inward and carry it alone? Or do you pause long enough to recognize that you may be witnessing someone else's inner state? In the next part, we will help you establish the inner position that keeps your peace intact, while clarity unfolds. When people begin to expose themselves, the most common reaction of a sensitive person is not anger, it is responsibility. You feel the shift in the interaction, and almost instantly you try to stabilize it. You soften your voice. You choose your words more carefully. You adapt your presence to keep things calm. And you do this without anyone asking you to. Not because you are weak, but because you are perceptive. You can sense when someone is emotionally off balance, and part of you wants to prevent escalation. But here is what often goes unnoticed. The moment you begin regulating their inner state, you step out of your own center. Your peace starts adjusting to their instability. And over time, this creates exhaustion, confusion, and a quiet sense of being drained, without knowing exactly why. This is why the first inner position is essential. You do not need to carry what is being revealed. You do not need to manage what is not yours. Awareness does not require absorption. You are allowed to notice, without intervening emotionally. So we begin with a simple, conscious anchor. Write in the comments, I do not carry what is not mine. Here is why this matters. Writing this sentence is not symbolic. It is regulatory. When you put words to a boundary, your nervous system recognizes it, tells your body, I am safe. I am not responsible for this. I can remain present without engaging. This single distinction between noticing and carrying is what protects your energy when others are no longer stable within themselves. As we continue, we will deepen this clarity so you can remain grounded, even when exposure intensifies around you. When people begin to expose themselves, it rarely happens all at once. It starts quietly, a reaction that lingers too long, a tone that feels sharper than the moment requires, a sentence that reveals more than intended. Nothing dramatic, just enough to unsettle you. You may not react immediately. You may continue the conversation. You may even smile, but something inside you registers the shift. Later, you think about it, not obsessively, just enough to feel that something no longer fits. At this stage, many people explain it away. You tell yourself they are tired, overloaded, under pressure. You minimize what you felt because it feels easier than trusting it. But exposure is not caused by stress alone. It happens when someone can no longer hold together what they feel and what they present. For a long time, many people live by containment. They manage impressions. They regulate emotions. They keep certain truths buried, because facing them would disrupt the image they depend on. This inner effort requires energy, and eventually that energy weakens. When it does, the structure holding everything in place begins to loosen. What appears is not honesty. It is leakage. Words stop matching feelings. Reactions lose proportion. Boundaries soften, then blur. You are not witnessing truth being spoken. You are witnessing inner regulation failing. And because you are perceptive, you feel this immediately. You sense it in the emotional atmosphere, in the way conversations feel heavier, in the subtle pressure that makes you want to withdraw, without knowing why. This is where sensitive people often turn inward. You ask yourself if you imagined it, if you misread the situation, if you are being too much. But the discomfort you feel is not a mistake. It is perception. You are sensing the gap between what is being shown and what is actually present. And that gap creates instability, not because you caused it, but because it was already there. Something that was being held together through effort is beginning to unravel. And as it unravels, interactions lose their former balance. Recognizing this changes everything. You stop trying to correct the situation. You stop adjusting yourself to restore harmony. You remain aware without becoming involved. And that awareness is what keeps you steady while something unresolved continues to surface. This is what is happening around you now, not externally, internally. As people begin to expose themselves, the pressure does not come from their behavior alone. It comes from the subtle pull to step in, to respond, to regulate, to make sense of what no longer makes sense. This pull is quiet. It does not feel like danger. It feels like responsibility. You feel it as urgency in the chest, as tension in the breath, as the impulse to explain yourself, even when you have done nothing wrong. This is how sensitive people lose energy, not through confrontation, not through conflict, but through emotional management. You try to stabilize the atmosphere. You try to soften what feels sharp. You try to restore balance before anyone even asks. And the moment you do, your inner field shifts. Your center moves outward. This is where disturbance enters. So the protection you are receiving is not dramatic. It is precise. It is a constant return to inner coherence. Coherence is not a thought. It is not a belief. It is a state where your heart remains steady, while another person's emotions become unstable. This steadiness creates distance, not emotional distance, energetic distance. It allows you to stay present without becoming entangled. You are still listening. You are still aware, but you are no longer merging. This is the difference. When you merge, their inner disorder passes through you. When you remain coherent, it stops at the boundary of your field. Nothing needs to be said. Nothing needs to be fixed. The protection happens silently. It happens when you slow your breath instead of matching their speed. When you lower your voice instead of raising it to be heard. When you allow pauses instead of filling the space with explanation. This is not withdrawal. It is regulation. Your regulation. And every time you choose coherence, you remove fuel from what feeds on emotional reaction. This is why we keep guiding you back to this state again and again, not because you forget, but because the pull is persistent. So anchor it consciously now. Write this sentence in the comments. I remain coherent Let it be simple. Let it be firm. Not as affirmation, as orientation. Because when your system remembers coherence, the external instability loses access. What is being revealed can continue to surface, but it does not get to pass through you, and your peace remains intact. When exposure is happening around you, there is a moment that matters most. It is not the moment when the other person speaks. It is the moment right after, the pause. This is where your choice lives. Most people rush through this space. They react. They respond. They try to regain control of the interaction. But you are learning something different. You are learning to stay, not frozen, not withdrawn, present. When someone becomes emotionally unregulated, their energy searches for a place to land. It looks for reaction, for agreement, for resistance, anything that confirms engagement. And this is where many sensitive people get pulled in. They mistake engagement for care. They confuse response with responsibility. So the practice is subtle. You do less. You shorten your answers. You slow your movements. You let silence exist without rushing to fill it. Silence is not absence. Silence is space, and space reveals everything. When you do not immediately respond, the other person has to face what is coming from them, not from you. This is not punishment. It is clarity. You are not withholding. You are not distancing. You are simply not carrying. Notice how different this feels in your body. Your chest stays open. Your breath stays low. Your mind does not race ahead. You are not preparing explanations. You are not rehearsing defenses. You are present, without self-abandonment. This is what protection looks like. In daily life, not a shield, not a wall, but a steady center. There will be moments when the other person escalates. They speak faster. They push for response. They become louder or more emotional. This is not a signal to engage. It is a signal to ground further. Lower your tone. Reduce words. Allow pauses. You do not need to match their intensity to be understood. Intensity feeds intensity. Coherence dissolves it. And when you remain coherent, something important happens. The interaction slows. The pressure drops. Not because you fixed anything, but because you removed yourself as a surface for projection. This is how you move through exposure, without being affected by it. You let what is being revealed continue on its own path, and you stay with yourself, steady, clear, undisturbed. There is something important to understand now. If people are exposing themselves around you, it is not because you are unlucky. It is because you are no longer available for illusion. When your inner state becomes clearer, what is unstable nearby can no longer stay hidden. You were never meant to hold other people together. You were never meant to absorb what they refuse to face. Your task is simpler and more precise: to remain present without abandoning yourself, to remain kind without becoming responsible, to remain aware without becoming involved. This is what protection truly is. Not withdrawal, not isolation, but quiet self-respect. As exposure continues, some people will adjust, others will fall away. This is not something you need to manage. Your peace does not come from keeping everyone comfortable. It comes from staying aligned with what you know is true. So anchor this now. Write this sentence in the comments. My peace is protected. Writing it matters because repetition teaches the nervous system. Each time you state it, you withdraw permission for emotional disturbance to enter your field. You are not closing your heart. You are protecting it. so it can remain open without being depleted, grounded, steady, peace.